Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, and today I'm hanging out with Askren from Exploding Dice, another East Coaster as well in the house. I've had a run of them lately.
Oh man, we're taking over. The West Coast is no longer the hub for RPG entertainment. Move over, Geek and Sundry. You're
Move up.
going
Well,
down.
you know what? I've been saying that, and I'm starting to connect with more and more people on the East Coast. I'm like, we don't have any studios on this side
We don't.
uh,
No.
of the country, and I'm like, we need an RPG studio. You know, there's like four of them that I know of on the West Coast. Three are in LA, and one is in Seattle.
My yeah, I mean that's actually interestingly why my goal, or one of my goals, was like I was considering sort of pivoting what I do here into going over to that, like to the West Coast, to sort of get into the production side of things, because it seems like that's an industry that is growing, though from what I understand, it may not be as stable as people think. I don't know. It's interesting. It's certainly an
And it's a
interesting thing.
very expensive place to live.
Right, there's that too. I
But you
just
live in New York, so I don't know.
yeah, I don't know, man.
Hopefully, I didn't give away any big secrets there. But no, yeah. So I feel like that's like could be an interesting thing if like enough of us could come together and figure something out on the East Coast.
I mean, I think I know some people that may have been trying to make things like that happen, but you'd have to ask me later. I don't have any details about that right now.
Yeah, you're over in Brian Stillman's hood, or close to it anyway.
Not, I don't know that. Should I know the name?
Well, he's a producer and does a lot of video stuff professionally. And he's working Eye of the Beholder, Art of D&D documentary right now. He did Plastic Galaxies.
Gotcha.
His partners Seth and Kelly are down in the DC area, and they're partnering with him on Eye of the Beholder. And those guys on their own had did Of Dice and Men, which is kind of like drama comedy based
Yeah.
around gaming.
Yeah, I know some people around here that are interested in sort of starting up like the studio scene, and my only hope is that it gets big enough to the point where we have like a not like a 90s rap thing, like East Coast versus West
Yeah,
Coast,
yeah.
Jets and the Sharks.
So like I feel like the impression is a lot of like the streamers and people in LA are like aspiring actors or actresses, but since that maybe isn't taking off the way they want, they kind of like move into D&D. Like, not that I think that's a great way for someone to get ahead in that industry, but that's the perception I get from other people. So I've kind of made the joke on the East Coast we could do the same thing but with modeling.
Is New York known for modeling?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I that's a reference I
Like,
would have
not in
had
my
out of
hood,
my
it's
head.
not.
Clearly, it must be. I don't know. No, it's actually really interesting though, because I mean, the with the whole explosion of streaming and sort of RPGs as entertainment, I feel like you always had people out, like actors are pretty much closet nerds anyway, right? Like, and I think it was kind of a secret that a lot of them were into the nerd stuff, playing games and stuff like that. Like, there was always an underground or not really talked about, and I know this because I've talked to a bunch of them, and like the fact that it just kind of came out that you could sort of exercise your acting chops and play games and possibly make some money doing it, all seems like it was just sort of a perfect storm of things that happened, like that could only happen now.
No, I totally get that. And then the other thing too, like it kind of makes sense if you really think about it. Like, when you get into RPGs and then you actually try to like move into the role playing aspect of it and less of the game aspect of it, there's a weirdness to that if you don't have it in you
Right.
naturally. And so I feel like someone who would gravitate towards acting, taking on roles and different
Right.
personas, like that's a personification of that weirdness that we feel as gamers who aren't used to doing that. So it just makes sense that well, they're doing that naturally anyway. They're been aspiring to do that. So it kind of makes sense.
Which is why I think like Critical Role was that sort of perfect storm of ingredients that made like a watchable show, whereas you have like a million other people that want to imitate that but may not have exactly the right ingredients, right? You know, because you have these people that their job, their lives are pretending not just to be other people, but pretending to be people in video games, which is pretty much as nerdy as it gets, right? Like they're acting out like high wizards and warriors and stuff like that. And it's like, well, that's what you do in D&D anyway. So, you know, I think it's just sort of that perfect cocktail that, you know, a lot of people want to replicate, but you know, it's one of those things where it's sort of like the television version of our D&D games. Like we think of our D&D games like that, you know. It's kind of how we imagine ourselves when we role play.
So before we get any deeper, right? I just want you to introduce yourself, tell people and where they, you know, where they can find you. I mean, the links are in the description as always, guys, but
well, okay, so my name is Astrid. I am the host and dungeon master of a Twitch TV channel that you probably haven't heard of called Exploding Dice. We do live role-playing games and role-playing related content 5 days out of the week. We have a talk show called Fuzzy Dice where I hang out with like nerd celebrities and content creators and stuff like that. Some heroes of mine and maybe of yours. And then we have all kinds of role-playing games. Today we have a show called The Daubers, which is like this weird, whimsical fantasy world of hobbits with big noses created by an amazing artist friend of mine. We have Razor Coast, which is an all-female pirate campaign, which is as if HBO was ever gonna make a show based on if you imagine like the HBO like hyper sexualized period dramas, that's basically this, and I have nothing to do with that. That's all my cast. And then we have Mouse Guard, and we have Writhing Moon, which is my like homebrew horror campaign, which is just kind of ridiculous and gory, and I love it. And we do lots of stuff. I mean, I sometimes try and stream video games, but I'm horrible at it. We do D&D prep. I don't know. It's whatever. It's nerd stuff. It's all D&D all the time.
It's great. I mean, it's a great time to be alive and be a gamer. You know, we're talking about this stuff. I saw someone ask in one of the Facebook groups is like, how do I do, it was a crafting group. And they're like, how do I do crafting for a living? And I didn't chime in because I just wanted to be like, work harder than you've ever worked in your life for a job and make like next to nothing to do it.
Right.
That's how you do it. So
right. And you know, streaming and YouTube is exactly the same way, right? It's, you know, hey, take every minute you have and you're not going to get paid a cent for it. But maybe one day, you know, maybe one day.
You know, I went full time this year, and we're starting to get there. But like, I cut my salary in half to do it. Like, I had a halfway decent job doing heavy construction before this, and it's just like, I'd rather do this. I'd rather hang out with you and these guys in the chat and the gals in the chat, and not dodge tractor trailers for a living.
Hey, I was it's so weird because I didn't really decide to be a streamer. It kind of just sort of happened by accident. I was working a shitty job as a chef, right? Like, I hated my life. I was working 12-hour shifts, and I was like, I'm going to do this until I die, and I'm going to hate every minute of it. But at the same time, and this is really an interesting story because it kind of talks to the transformative power of internet media. At the same time, I was Roll20 had just started being a major thing, right? And I hadn't really played D&D seriously since back in college when I had people around me. But when you're an adult and you're working a crappy job, you don't really have friends around you anymore. They've all moved off and gone to do their own thing. And so I was playing a lot of Roll20 games. I was DMing a lot on Roll20 when I had spare time. And one of the groups, like, I just put together to play this campaign, and one of the groups was just like, hey, one of our players has a Twitch channel. You want to try and stream the game? And I'm like, I didn't know that was a thing. Like, I tried to record something for a podcast once, but it didn't work. And I'm like, sure, okay. And then like 2 sessions later, I'm like, okay, if we're going to do this, like, if we want people to watch, you got to go in, you got to do it all. You got to do the production. You got to have its own channel. You got to promote it on social media, right? And that's literally how the channel and my new full-time job was born.
So you're doing this full time then?
Pretty much. I mean, I long since stopped working as a chef. I was working full time for a while last year. I cut that down to part time about halfway through the year, and then a little bit before the holidays this year, I kind of quit. I wanted to find a new job, but it sort of forced me to go. Like I was already pretty much full time here, but it forced me to just sort of dedicate more time. And so now, yeah, streaming and Patreon and subs and stuff are basically paying my bills, or most of them. And we're adding more content, and we're trying to push it harder, and push for more stuff, so that maybe we can make this like a real career and not just just barely paying my loans.
Well, one of the things like I've said to people, and I guess it could maybe be kind of like offensive, but I don't really mean it that way, is when you have a crappy job and you don't make very much money, the world is so open to you. And there's like a certain freedom in like, and people don't realize it because you're really caught in the middle of it.
Right.
But like when you don't make that much money, it means it's easy to replace.
Right.
So there's like there's some freedom in that.
Yeah, and I mean, like it's tough, especially because once I left even when I was working, but once I left my job, I'm like, I'm gonna have to get out of New York. I can't afford this place, not with my loans and all that shit. But I also like I'm aware that with the amount of work that you're able to put in, like if I put in more work the way we've been going, I am fairly certain that I can sort of go somewhere like in the middle of nowhere, where everything is not as expensive, and just sort of live off streaming, right?
Source your internet first.
Yeah. That's a big thing.
But no, yeah, you're right. Like we've joked because a couple of the people that work with us work from home, and we're like, "Come, I'm trying to convince everyone. Like, come on, man, Costa Rica compound, we could do this. We go someplace where you don't need a lot of money to live."
I'm still saying some of my friends have joked about pooling resources and building like a streamer house just for role-playing game creators, and I'm like, hey, I don't mind if it's affordable.
If I didn't have attachments and I was a single young guy and doing this by myself, I would probably not think twice about moving to some other country where the cost of living is much less. And all I need is internet, and bam, off and running.
Here's the only thing I dread is if I move somewhere in a different time zone, I like shifting my stream schedule and ruining everything.
Yeah. No. You don't shift it. You just become nocturnal or do whatever you gotta do.
I'm already nocturnal.
There you go. So you just live in the time zone you came from is all.
Oh man. So aside from streaming, man, I'm excited, or I'm glad to be here, talking on the Nerdarchy channel, mostly because I'm completely oblivious to the YouTube side of all this stuff. Like, it's not in my feed. It's not in my, it's not on my, like, you guys that do things on the YouTube end of thing, like, I love, like, I'm envious of the, because I can't even edit a video, man. I don't even know how.
Well, neither can we. If you watch our stuff, you know that. No, I have just become aware of Twitch. Like, it's been in the peripheral, and I've just started paying attention more. And recently, we've kind of made some forays with the Saber Dice game, over on Twitch, and we've been talking about Twitch for years. And it's just like another thing to do. And I'm envious of you guys in the sense that I go, oh my God, all they do is turn on the camera and go. But on the other side of that is you guys are a lot more technical as far as like everyone's running through, OBS or XSplit or something else. And even when we do games, we are super basic.
It's, I think I'm one of those weirdos that I find my zen in the production aspect. right? Like making the graphics and setting everything up so it looks nice and all that stuff. You know, that's just, I don't know, that's that lonely work that's my comfort zone. Like I can just tune out and do that.
I totally get that. You know, my partner in Saber Dice, Cody, loves that stuff, and then like that's the stuff I don't like, and I'm not really all that into. I just do the stuff that needs to be done. We're getting offers to set me up with OBS. And that's the great thing about the community. There are so many people that are always willing to help and do things like that. And just sometimes it's just like that. It's not the doing the thing that is daunting. It's the idea of doing it. Sometimes it's just like, right. Another thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the same thing with like getting on YouTube. Like I know I should put more time into YouTube, and it probably doesn't take that much time to like export a thing and cut the intro out and just be done with it and set up tags and all that. But I'm like, I just don't have it. Like it's not part of my routine, and so I just like I need to fix that. You know?
I noticed, and guys, Askren has a lot of amazing guests over on his channel on the Fuzzy Dice Show talk show, and that's one of the things I was looking at. I was like, this has hardly any views on it. This doesn't make sense. And then I look at your description and it's like, blank.
I literally just export the things from Twitch and I'm like, I don't do anything else.
Oh man.
Welcome to my life.
You should outsource that to the Philippines or something.
Is there someone I could pay?
Absolutely. I'm sure there is.
I've talked to people about taking over as YouTube manager, and they always stop like responding after a little while. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll. Yeah.
Well, that's not getting done. You probably have to hire them. We recently just started using a video editing service.
Yeah,
and
is that a thing? We can
afford to send a handful of our videos a week out there, but I'm like, you know what, frees me up to do some other things, because like the stuff that I actually geek out on, and when we started Nerdarchy, we made no bones about what we are doing here, that like we started it as a business from the beginning. It's always been a business. It's our passion, and we want to make a living doing that. And so right from the get-go we did it. And there's like this weird stigma around it, especially maybe more so in the YouTube space, where, you know, somehow that's like dirty money. If you actually, you know, if you're not working a soul crushing job and hate your life, you're not doing it right. But I actually like the business stuff. Like I came from a world of internet marketing.
I'm miserable at it. I'm awful at social media. I'm awful at like anything that involves the back end. I don't know what I'm good at production, I guess, making graphics. I can do that because I went to school for illustration and graphic design. So this is the only time I get a chance to use any of that.
Where'd you go to school at?
SVA in Manhattan.
Okay. My brother graduated from UA.
Okay.
In Philadelphia. And he was doing Nerdarchy for us until this year he left to do his own thing. He does 3-dimensional art.
I've dabbled in ZBrush and stuff back when I was trying to be a concept artist. When I was doing that for a little while. Yeah, I used to do ZBrush and 3D modeling and
physical, like
sculpture, yeah.
And then photographs. Have you ever heard of Red Nose Studios?
No, I don't think so.
So you know, so it's kind of like it's a style that's similar to what he's doing. He started doing it, and then someone said, "Oh, that you should check out this guy," and he did. And so whenever, like, he's been in Spectrum and stuff like that, and in the different books. But whenever people would see his stuff, they would give him a hard time, like, "Oh, you're too much like Red Nose Studios," and it was like he found that style, and then because of that, people started pointing him in that direction. But yeah, so he makes these like puppets and stuff, and then takes pictures of them.
Dig it. Yeah, I don't do anything art related these days. I mean, I tweeted out recently, like, I try and fit in a couple creative streams every so often to just keep drawing, but I'm not very motivated to. So it's like whenever I get a chance, people keep asking me like, "Hey, do you take commissions?" I'm like, no. I'll never get it done. If you want something, if you want to pay for something that never gets done, sure.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, it's tough, man. Like, you like we were talking earlier, your one man show over there, and it's just a lot of work. I mean, I have a couple of partners and people helping, and it's still a ton of work. It's never ending.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all like we're all kind of trying to figure out this weird sort of like producing content for the internet thing, right? Like what that means and the, every like I before I started this, and you can probably echo the sentiment, like I have never written an email like to a business, like soliciting them for something before. Like I'd never written a business email for that. I'd never really like done the social media thing, like I've not like written contracts or anything like that. But it's like, okay, just do it. Like now it's a thing you have to do.
Same, yeah, a lot of that stuff. Same here. It's just a matter of getting out there and doing it and just messing up. At least we are in a forgiving industry for that, and reaching out to people in this industry isn't nearly as hard as maybe some other ones.
No, and this like people, or I tweeted about this recently, that the role playing community on the internet between like Twitch, Twitter, and I suppose the YouTube and the connected outlets there is like ridiculously helpful and willing to just kind of give you assistance or point you in any direction you need, right? Like in it, like there between run like charity stuff, or the companies willing to help out, or the people willing to help out. It's pretty crazy. Which is weird because when you talk to a lot of streamers and people on Twitch about like, hey, what's the community like? They're like, it's fucking toxic and it's miserable and everyone hates it. Like, I'm like, but that's not my experience with anyone in this community.
Well, I think that's because you're drawing a different community. You got a sub niche of the community, and it's the nicer people. We've noticed on Nerdarchy for the past like I guess we're on 4 years now, and the community is awesome. The people are awesome. Very rarely do we get negative comments or any of that toxicity. I mean, I think the first time in the longest time, I just told someone to tone it down in a comment. Like, so
here's the funny thing. You were talking about having guests on the show. Someone posted my my Matt Mercer interview to Reddit, and you have no idea how those people fucking raked me over the coals because I was a crappy interviewer and stuff. I'm like, this is like episode 20. Like I've never done this in my life. And yeah, Matt is like a more like level and organized and composed speaker than I am, and I'm a little bit more scatterbrained and tangential. And it's like, okay, like it's not much I can. Sorry, man, you didn't like it.
Fuck Reddit. I hate that place. I just despise that place so bad. I did like an article and posted it over there, and they came with the red markers, man. They are so brutal.
Oh.
And like when I talk to the guys from MDM, because they're really big over there, like I know where their audience is coming from. A lot of their audience comes from. Like I'm gonna get like zero crossover from working with you guys. I mean, I love working with you guys, but like they're gonna come and they're gonna see the production value and be like, no, this is not like it looked like it was done in Hollywood. You guys suck. And they're just so anal over there at Reddit.
Here's the funniest experience I had with Reddit, and the reason there's a lot of reasons I don't post there, mostly because I just don't post on forums like that. But like I was once advertising. I put out a casting application for a game that I was trying to put together. This was a while back when I still did like public casting and took like applications, which is long since over. But I just put a link to the Twitch channel because I thought I wrote this post and it was all completely like nothing was hidden, right? I was giving them a link to my channel, to my YouTube, so they can watch how we do things. And if you're familiar with Twitch, it's not a secret that Twitch streamers put like a donation link on their channel. You can tip them with it usually, right? And if for D&D games, it's not uncommon at all. Be like, for a couple dollars, you can do something in game, like give a player a nat 20 or something, right? Fucking Reddit, I think it was the LFG, or it might have been the D&D one. I don't remember. They went nuts over this. Like it was some secret like Ponzi scheme or something that I was like, trying to get over on them. I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah, well, remember when I said there's a certain group of people that don't believe you should be able to have a career in this industry and not, instead of having a soul crushing job. Yeah, and especially like, or there's a certain right number of right ways to make money in the RPG niche, which frankly I actually feel like it's easier for us as entertainment to do better than people that are actually making this stuff, because many of them still have day jobs.
Here's the amazing thing, right? It is I think we're in an era where people like, we swung through the 2000s where people didn't want to pay for like supplements and stuff, but we're kind of swinging out of that, I think.
Yeah.
Because you can sell stuff on the DMs Guild, but it's easy to sell people entertainment from what I've learned, right? Like, people want to be sold entertainment.
Well, they want to hang out, and so a lot of these platforms make it so it's still kind of free for them unless they want to.
Right. I don't mean sold as in like you know, make them pay to watch. I'm saying like it's easy to say, here's an entertaining stream. Would you like to watch it? And people are like, yeah, sure.
We're like drug dealers that give the first hit out for free. That's what it is. So I want to jump in the chat and get to some of these questions that are starting to pile up.
Go for it.
We got Zerif Gaming. Any advice for new streamers? And hi, Lisa.
Yeah, what's going on, Lisa? Depends what you want to stream. If you want to stream role-playing games, yes, I have a lot of advice there. Like if you want to stream D&D. First and foremost, I would watch and listen to a lot of content, a lot of podcasts and streams and stuff, and see which ones are popular and why. And you'll generally find a key factor that's running through them, and that's that they are like upbeat, well paced, and feel like they have a lot of energy to them. Right? Streaming has the unfortunate downside that podcasts don't. That you can't edit your stream. You can edit a podcast to feel like it flows really well and it's fast paced and stuff like that, and no downtime. Streams you can't do that. But the DM can. The DM can sort of set the pace and the tone of things. So if you are an energetic person with active and engaging players, people will enjoy it. The other thing is production value. If you go on Twitch and you look at all the people streaming, you'll see like at least 2/3 of the page are just people who like open up Roll20 and then just point OBS at their Roll20 window and hit broadcast and nothing else, right? And it's like, it looks bad. It just doesn't look very good. No one's gonna ever click that. It's not hard to make yourself just a simple overlay, like a PNG or something in Photoshop, whatever, to put on your thing. There are websites that you can do it from. There are templates that you can find on Google. The more, like, I use one PNG, like one graphic, and if it makes your stream look kind of a little bit more slick and well produced, you'll attract attention, at least from the thumbnail, right? And then once you get people in, it's all on your content. That's pretty much the only thing. Be active on social media. Promote. Facebook and Twitter are great places to promote. Reddit, maybe, I don't know. I'm not really involved there. And then find your own voice. Have a good time, right? Don't stress too much about viewers. Don't stress about subscribers. As long as those aren't gonna be there instantly. But if you want to be a streamer, there's one rule, and that's the more you stream, the better you do, right? I started out with one show, and then I needed something else, so I added a talk show, because why not? Because I can sit in front of a camera and talk about D&D. And then that's it. Is you just kind of, if you have the ability to do more, you do more, and if not, you just make what you can do the best you can make it.
So I would kind of add to that too. Like, you can enhance a little bit of that stuff with social media, with marketing, and getting your name out there. And the other thing is really also know who you're streaming for. Like, have that, you can have that in mind as well. Like, from, one of the reasons we did YouTube is because YouTube uses some of the tools that I already understood And from coming from like a network marketing, internet marketing background, when I came into YouTube, when we came in, it was so easy. Like we just came in and crushed everybody with SEO. Like our content wasn't particularly better than anyone else's. We had a different format because we had multiple speakers, and we understood SEO and we used that. Now everybody kind of understands it, so it's a little bit tougher. It's out there. Things that were a little more mainstream YouTube, but were kind of like mysticism to people that were in the RPG community.
Right. Twitch doesn't have, unfortunately, Twitch doesn't have those tools of like tags and channel optimization and stuff. So you're basically with Twitch, just like a podcast, right? You kind of just are thrown into the pool with everyone else.
No, podcasts you can use SEO too. So there's ways to do it, right? Like if there's ways to tackle it, like this is like more technical stuff that people might want. But like if you do a website and you stream, you put your stream on your page, like you can technically tackle it from that angle. I'm not saying that's what someone should do, but social media is way better.
This is actually an interesting point because Mr. X in chat says how the stream looks is far less important than the personalities playing. And I agree, except for the fact that no one knows the personalities of the people or the tone or the personality of the stream until they click on it, right? And they're not going to click on it, like they see the thumbnail on Twitch before they click on it. So for Twitch, I think how your presentation looks is essentially your SEO when it comes to Twitch, right? A great looking stream that stands out from the crowd is going to, even with no viewers, is going to look more is going to be what people click before they click, someone just pointing their camera at Roll20 and a white Roll20 background.
That, and you have to be consistent. That's like huge over there.
Yes. Yeah, keep a schedule and being consistent because people can only watch you if they know when to find you.
And that was like the other thing that we did for YouTube was we just had more content than anybody else. We still do. Like we just put out a lot of content. Like I figure if we can't put out good content, we might as well put out more of it.
Well, that's why that's why I took the streaming thing like full time, and we do 5, and we're about more than 5, but we're going to be moving up to 6 days a week very soon. Is because in a big push towards partnership and stuff, it's just like you need more viewers. That means you need more content attracting people, right? A bigger variety of content. If people don't want to stop in for your Curse of Strahd game because they've already seen Curse of Strahd and there's a million of them, maybe they might like something else that that you can produce, right? But that's why I said if you can't produce a ton of content, then your goal should be to make what you can produce as good as you can.
Absolutely makes sense. So James, this might be a bit of a loaded question. We have just gotten a comic book shop here, but RPGs are still kind of taboo. Any suggestions on how to build a gaming community and bring out those closet gamers? Well, with anything that's kind of taboo, the best thing you can do is try and disseminate as much information as possible to educate people, and so they're not ignorant. Plug into Adventure League because they have a ton of great resources, and you will find some support there.
Lisa's in chat. She'll have information about that.
And that'll make things easier. And like if you can sell it to businesses as, hey, if we can get these people here, they're going to spend their money, you might get support that way as well. That would be a couple ideas off my head. Put out, start a meetup, put listings in Craigslist, go to these businesses and hopefully they'll have like a, some kind of message board or a bulletin board or something that you can put stuff up, and maybe they have email lists. Maybe they'll promote it if you're doing events at their business, and, as a way to drum up more business and get people, through the door.
I was just down at my local comic shop opened up near where I am not too long ago. I only went in there because I was looking for the Xanthar's Guide like special edition, and Wizards said they were a partner and they might have it. And so I went there, and it's a tiny comic shop, but the guy running it said that he even though he just started getting Wizards products in, they actually have like comic shop, like there's local D&D groups that operate out of that comic shop. So if you have a comic shop, you should definitely talk to the owner. Maybe they'll let you put up flyers or something like that. If you have a local college, right, there's bound to be some nerds at the college, you know, put up some paper there. You know, yeah, like find place where you think a nerd might congregate, and then let them know that it's a thing that you want to do, right? Meetup, there's meetup.com is also a great thing, that you can check. Maybe you have Google groups, maybe, I don't know, like there's, yeah, like, and Adventures League has some support. I'm not an Adventures League person myself, but I know there's definitely some support there. And if there isn't, maybe you can start an Adventures League club.
So there's definitely a bunch of stuff you can do. But yeah, I would talk, if you just got a comic book store into where you're at, I would talk to them. And guess what? That store's probably not going to last anyway if they don't do some stuff. Like you cannot just open a gaming store or a comic book store and expect to have a successful business if that's all you do.
Right. Like, if there's no, like, I don't think it's necessarily hard for a comic book store to start stocking Wizards products, right? To become an official Wizards retailer. If you know, so if they can start stocking some products, then you know that's another, like, you can help found that. You can help make that a thing in your town. Again, it's hard for me to say because I've never really been in a place where like no one plays role-playing games, right? Like, I've always been kind of around it, so I don't know exactly what, you know, if there's a culture thing or anything like that.
James, just move either to the East Coast or the West Coast.
Yeah, just a big city, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
That's what like we're spoiled. Like, you know, Nerdarchy has always said we've always been spoiled when it comes to gaming because, you know, we live smack dab between two major metropolitan cities, so there's always something going on.
Right. I've always been within a couple minutes of a game store near me, right? So, but yeah, no, Lisa, if you guys don't know, Lisa in chat is, she's the community manager now for Adventures League. She says the Facebook group is very active, so
I think she had to like cut off Robert Aducci's head or something, but it's all good.
There can only be one. Yeah, it is kind of a Highlander situation.
Yeah.
I think the next, like, what's, oh god, what was the villain from Highlander's name?
Oh, Krogan.
The Krogan, yeah. Chris Perkins is the Krogan.
Which, yeah, that's funny. So, Geek and Undies, what fond memories of games other than D&D do you have?
I'm really in love with Mouse Guard right now. We've been playing it on my channel, and it is a ton of fun. Mostly because my dungeon master he's such an evangelist for the system because it was his first role-playing game system. So,
ooh, that's a tough one to start with.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. It's like, I wouldn't say it's difficult. It's any more difficult than D&D because it's actually a little bit simpler in a lot of ways. But it's really like it handles its narrative so differently and in a way, like, I love the conflict card system. If you're familiar, are you familiar with either Mouse Guard or Burning Wheel?
I have not played either, just in passing.
Well, the basic thing is, rather than like in D&D where you have two people facing off and it's like you roll a d20 to hit, and then you roll your damage, and then they roll a d20 to hit you, and they do their damage. Mouse Guard has a conflict card system. It's It's basically 4-card rock, paper, scissors. But it's not just for physical combat, it's for any kind of conflict. So like we've done like trade negotiations, we've done like court arguments with it, we've done like fighting snakes and weasels and stuff with it. It's just, I don't know, it's such an interesting system, and the moments that it is created, but on either for Bob Ross channel are just some really, really great role-playing ones that I am a huge fan of. Other than that, Open Legend has been really great. I really enjoy it. I've been running the horror game on Open Legend, even though we kind of ejected a lot of the rules. But that's been just some of the things that we've done in that game are pretty memorable. And then moving outside of that, trying to remember some. Of course, it's got to be my favorite game ever. Big motherfucking crab chuckers. This just no game is better than that.
That's awesome. So I don't know why, but instantly sprung to my mind. I remember, like, for a while in my neighborhood as a kid growing up, laser tag was the thing. And for Christmas, I had convinced my grandparents to get me the rifle, and everyone else had the pistols, and I could just like outrange everyone, and I could hide. They would never find me, and just kill people with impunity. It was awesome.
Okay. I don't remember. We never had. I don't think we ever had laser tag. That might have been before my time.
I think I'm a little older than you.
Or maybe I'm just very good at hiding it.
You have a pink somewheres. As usual, Aaron Marks is trying to convert people to Fantasy Grounds. He runs a Fantasy Grounds college over there. If you need help with Fantasy Grounds from an aggressively helpful community, let us know. I will vouch, they're aggressively helpful.
I've not actually run anything on Fantasy Grounds, mostly because my experience with Fantasy Grounds comes from from way back in the first version of it, when it was one of like it and map tools were the only way to play online that wasn't like IRC chat, like this was before like a real way to disseminate these things. So the only way anyone would play it is like you traded a pirated version, and you had to get like 4 people to try and install this on their computer, and someone would screw it up, and it would take all day, and by the end of the day you were like, fuck it, I don't even want to do this anymore. That was my experience with Fantasy Grounds. So
I have very little experience with virtual tabletops. I mean, we've been using Fantasy Grounds for Saver Dice, and they're one of the sponsors over there, and Doug is a really great guy, and I actually got to meet him at Gen Con and talk to him for a little while. But I am still a little intimidated to actually run from a virtual tabletop.
I love Roll20, man. It's so quick and easy for me. I just zip through it in 2 seconds now.
When I see, I guess my first experience was with Roll20. TV Timmy has a Twitch channel where he streams a couple of D&D games, and I played on there, and he reminded me like of a conductor from an orchestra when he would run the games, running all the sound, Sirenscape or whatever sound system he was using, and the maps and everything. And I'm just old and kind of a grognard. I'm really basic.
See, that's the funny thing is like between the music either on Sirenscape or tabletop audio, sometimes on YouTube, and then Roll20, and then the Twitch chat, and then OBS and the volume, maintaining the volume levels, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Like there's so much stuff swirling around my head that I'm just used to all that noise at this point, right? Because add to that, I'm also trying to think of like, how is the pace of the show? Like, are we on an upswing? Are we on a downswing? How much time is left? Like watching the clock. Are we, are we getting close to the end? Do I need to find a cliffhanger? Like, what cliffhanger can I end on? Are the players engaged? How do they look? Are their faces all, happy or engaged? Or they look bored? Like, all that stuff is swirling around my head, and it's like without all that noise, like when I'm just a player, just sitting there and not doing any of that, I'm like, so there's nothing for me to do. I'm just so useless.
That's hilarious. Well, I tell this story all the time, but when I had Will on here for the first time, and I realized he was holding a conversation, talking to me, and having a separate conversation in the chat at the same time, I was like, this guy is not human.
Yeah, I'm awful at you. The one thing I can't do during my games is type in chat.
I would literally be like, if I was trying, like, I attack the orc, and I'd be typing, I attack the orc if I tried doing both at the same time.
No, I can do everything else. I just can't type in chat. That's all I can't do. I don't know why. It just my hands don't want to do it.
So, Big Easy MC has a question for me. Dave, any tips for growing a sweet beard? Yes, actually. Well, maybe, but you put my name there, but you can answer too if you like.
I have no tips.
I do. Just be descendant of the All Fathers people, man. You'd be good.
Oh man,
My grandmother, 100% Swede. So
I do there is a question, and this is probably a little bit down your list, but McGregor's in chat. He said, first of all, by the way, what's up? He was a player that I had in one of our December charity games. Dude donate one of the people that donated like just a ton of money to our charity, matching all the donations we made that day. So thank you so much for that. And he's talking about in art. He says, "Can you imagine a specific RPG charity landscape, like games done quick, and I guess Extra Life, not Second Life. Second Life is the virtual reality game."
Yeah.
I was thinking about that for a second. And the answer to that is sure. I don't see why not. I don't know who would organize it. I can tell you I had an absolute blast running if you guys don't know, we did a month of charity in December called Dicember. We did tons and tons of charity games. We raised something like $7,000 for charity. And I still have to give out all the prizes and stuff. But it's definitely going to be a thing going forward. And when we get around to doing it next year, it's definitely going to be bigger and with more people and more events and stuff like that. So how you take that official, I have no idea. I don't know, but we'll be doing more. That's all I know.
I felt a little guilty in December. I seen all you guys over there raising all that money for charity and doing such great work. And I'm like, we wouldn't be able to do anything over here on YouTube. We like literally our stream games are just like we turn on Hangout and run things that way. I've recently upgraded the weekly game I've been running, and that is we just stream it directly from Zoom to YouTube, and it's no overlays or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't bouncing back and forth with the boxes.
You should hit me up sometime. I'll set you up with some slick production stuff.
Yeah, it's funny. Our Marvel game that we run Monday nights is, I mean, we've been this past Monday was really good, but we've been kind of like beaming that from another location, and they've been having problems with internet.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that's worked out. But it's War Eagle Keep had reached out to us and said, "Hey, I really enjoyed the Marvel game you guys did. When you guys do a season 2, can I help with the production?" So he does like the overlays, and he does, he runs a soundtrack, and pulls images and does all that stuff in the background while we play the game. And it is really nice. I just can't imagine doing both at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, again, like, and this is, people talk to me about like graphics and stuff. Like, it's all template at this point. I just set it up in Photoshop and just like drop images in and go. I don't know. I don't think it's that hard, but then again, like, it's a little bit more than just one button thing. Like, I actually have to change some graphics for the game tonight and things like that, but I'll get that done in a couple minutes. I'm also a no prep DM. I have so much more become a no prep DM the more and more I stream, which is funny because this whole month I've been streaming my prep for Razor Coast, our pirate game. Like, so chat helps me plan that, but I'm so used to not prepping that it's like I actually have to find things to prep just so we have a reason to hang out. Yeah. Right, because otherwise, like, I'd be like writing like a couple like lines like of things that I want to make sure I remember happened during the game and nothing else.
I don't, and I'm not running a ton of games either, so it makes it easier. I'll just spend like, okay, so like I'm running a game tonight, so I'll spend throughout the day. I'll just think about that game and things that I could do and have like an encounter planned, because we run short sessions and my players are they're great. Like, I feel like I could walk away and the game would go on without me for the most part. But, so, and I never know what they're going to do. So I just have an idea of like, all right, well, here's a combat I could throw out there if I wanted to. Here's the thing that's interesting to me about the Razor Coast game, this all-female pirate campaign. For the reason it's so interesting to me is because you said like you feel like you could walk away, but your players also surprise you. A lot of my games, I feel like I am just so like
able to predict what my group's going to do. I don't need to prep because I know exactly what they're going to pick up on or what they're going to chase. And it's like, you know, all I have to do is drop that one thing and I don't have to write anything else because they're not going to do anything else. I don't know, like it's just one of those things that happens after a while. And then I get this group and they're like, I'm like here with my chat writing a story about like subterfuge and like and intrigue and plots that are turning in the background and like things that are happening. And my brother's like, we want to hang out in the tavern and pickpocket this orc and then seduce him into the room and then steal his stuff. And I'm like, okay. Crumpling up my notes and just throwing them out because nothing's happening this session.
That is my Scarlet Sisterhood game as well, and that is all female players as well. And it is a much different group dynamic than most of the other games I've run. I mean, our experience has been mostly, you know, a bunch of dudes in Ted's basement or my basement, you know, whoever's house we're playing at. And, you know, now running with, you know, all women in the game, I feel like they role play with each other way more.
Yeah, and they're on a wavelength that I'm not tuned in on, right? Like, you know, like they make connections and they just kind of connect with each other in a way that like is so different than any other group that I've been involved in. And it's interesting and it's challenging in a way I wasn't really prepared for, which I like because I don't, you know, I like stretching new muscles, right?
Yeah. Like the last game session was like two of the players are kind of like arguing over like wanting to free baby yetis, and one of them's like they're monsters and they're evil and we should just let it go, but if you really want to do this, we'll kill this guy and get it done with and we can free the baby yetis. But I'm saying it's a bad idea.
I wish that was the arguments that my group got into. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about some of the stuff that happens on stream without getting your channel shut down.
Sounds good. Yeah, but yeah, they definitely get crazy. And early on, one of the things I would say a lot is I fear for the virtue of my NPCs. So
yeah,
they in some ways a lot of times they're raunchier than, you know, a lot of the other tables I've run.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. Like 100%. Like to the point where like so the girls in my group just decided the first session that their go-to tactic was that they're just gonna seduce every guy. Like because this is a pirate setting, there's a lot of dudes that are gonna be willing to, like drunk dudes that are like, hey, what's up? And they're just gonna use that. Like they're gonna hit that one note for everything. Like they're just gonna use it for every single situation. And so my prep, which is interesting because my prep has now become and it like we did this last yesterday on our prep session. It's like, okay, so let's get away from the story prep, right? The narrative, the plot progression prep, and let's focus on what they do and are likely to do. Like what can we predict that they will probably do? They will probably try and seduce someone or steal from someone, right? They've already done it twice before, which means eventually they're going to do it from the wrong person, or a person they steal from is going to, you know, have like keep a grudge or remember them or something like that. And how do we bring that back in and use that to bring them back to some kind of narrative progression?
Oh my God, Will Wolf in the chat. I kind of fear for you a little bit, my friend. I'm sorry.
What's up? Oh yeah, no, that's.
It collects monster scrotums as a pixie, often uses them as hammocks. Sigh. A little concerned for Will.
Wait, if you're collecting them, why do you? How do you use a different one per day? Like
yeah, you know, you never run out.
And where do you keep them?
And you're a pixie, so depending on the monster.
Right. Like, I don't know. That raises so many questions.
Yeah. And do you sleep with one eye open just in case after an argument? You don't want her to acquire a new dice bag.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But yeah, so I had a friend ask me, And I thought, I kind of thought it was a stupid question, but he's like, well, how do you prepare and run for an all women game? I'm like, the same like do for anyone else. They just do different things than I would expect,
Right.
or that I've seen. And then I do what I always do with my players is I react to what they're doing and try and help build the story with them and the story they want to run.
And that's the thing is like Razor Coast, if any of you are familiar with it, it is a technically a Pathfinder setting guide or campaign guide, I suppose, that was published by Frog God a while back. It's a pirate setting. It's kind of a dark pirate setting. It's not written for women in the sense that like it doesn't. There's no specifics about this being this campaign designed for all women. It's just designed as a normal D&D campaign. And when I was putting the campaign together, I didn't design it as an all women campaign. I just happened to be inviting a bunch of women, right? And they like I just happened to like it just kind of fell together that way. And so that didn't affect anything, and it still doesn't affect anything as to how I prep. Like I still prepare the same narrative things, the same plot thing, like radar things. I still handle NPC interactions the same thing. The only difference is it sort of changes how the NPCs interact with characters a little bit, which is just a normal thing, right? That you do that anyway, depending on what you're playing, like the race, the alignment, the looks, the actions of the players in the game anyway. So it just means that there's a different tone to how they interact with the world. But like it's not something that was ever like the female thing was literally just it kind of happened, and we're like, okay, I guess we're just gonna say we'll market it as a female campaign because some people want that, right? Some people want to see a group of all women playing D&D, and that's fine. But it doesn't affect anything about how I think about the game or how I write anything.
So when we had Matt Colville on, he had asked someone in the chat had asked him the question of, how do you get more female players to play the game? And he was like, well, invite them.
That's it. It's fucking
literally, like, I started the Scarlet Sisterhood as an all-female game because my experience with D&D has always been, a bunch of dudes until I started, the one game where Nicole from Cardboard Fortress plays in. That's the first time I feel like we actually brought a gamer to the table, just so happens to be female as well. Over the past like 20 years we've been doing this. So I just reached out to some women that were fans and that I knew, said, hey, do you want to play some D&D with me? And it so happens I was lucky enough they said yes, and now we play. And I feel like that group, I'm not going to say women because that's too much of a generalization, but I'll say that group, they respect the game so much more than some of the other groups I played with, where like they will genuinely role play being afraid of monsters, because you know what, in the reality you like should be afraid of monsters, but most of the people that I play with, they're playing the character and they understand the game aspect of it, so they never really role play that.
I will definitely agree, and I don't I agree in the sense of like it's weird to say this and not make it a generalization thing, but from an anecdotal perspective, like this particular group of women, they are much more in touch with and sort of about their character, right? And rather than their character sheet and the rules that their character engages with. For example, Haley, who plays this character named Ember. Ember is like a lecherous drunk. She's like a drunk woman. Like she is a sailor, but since she's on land, she drinks to kind of give her that at sea feeling. And she also is like kind of a little bit lecherous to the point where she doesn't seek it out, but she will use her feminine wiles, and and if someone offers, like she'll take anyone up on offers, and she gets into that character, like that character, the character's characteristics inform how she plays the character rather than any particular rules or mechanics about that. And the rest of the group is great too. And what's also amazing is we have a few first or newer D&D players in the game, like and the reason is the difference here is I reached out to a lot of people who were Twitch streamers, but not necessarily D&D. Some of them had already played D&D on stream. Some of them hadn't. But Twitch streamers are interesting because these are people that are already streaming video games and, you know, doing things with a community and stuff like that. And like they're already nerds, right? Like that's not a thing that you have to sort of grapple with. And like I've almost never met anyone on Twitch, male or female, who doesn't jump at the chance to play D&D, right? Like they all want to. And so it was just you know, it was just a matter of just sending out something like, hey, you want to do a thing? And they're like, yes, let's do it. You know, there's no coercion there. There's no like, oh, this person's a woman, let's get her. It's just, you know, seeking. I know a lot of guys that I can ask, right? But it's like, okay, let's find some people I don't know and ask them, right? And it brings a new community and a new audience and a new way of kind of engaging with the game. And it's, you know, again, like you said, you know, these girls, when they get together, they just get together so well that they connect with each other on a level that none of my other groups really do, right? I don't know what it is. It's just, you know, it's just an interesting experience.
There's that. And when I started doing this, I also wanted to have a place where, I mean, it's all over the place now, but when I started doing it, we just had episode 40. So so we've been doing it for almost a year. Yeah, almost a year. We've probably missed a couple sessions. But I also, in my mind, had the idea of wanting a place where women or girls could come and see people like them playing the game. You know, like I'm really big on that. I think that's important. Like it's why like I don't know. We're not very political, or we don't like scream it or anything, but I do still think it's important that representation matters. I've always said seeing people that look like you doing a thing is good for the community. It's good for everybody. It's like it's an unspoken permission to enjoy a thing, maybe in a subculture that would not actually be favorable towards the hobby, you know. But so that becomes a barrier, and once they see other people doing it, there's like, oh, I can do this.
Which is strange when you look at when you're talking about Twitch. I think it's slightly different too, because there's like Twitch's, I don't want to say it's even, but there are tons of female streamers, right, that play, you know, that are both, you know, average and extremely successful. And so, you know, just, you know, like I guess that is a thing. It's just never a thing that runs through my head, right? Like about the whole representation or inclusion thing. It's just kind of like it will. To me, it's one of those things that just will happen. Like if you just kind of let it, and I'm just not letting it is, you know, the only way I look at it. Like it's not a like a thing that I put on my list to make sure you know, we get around to. So, you know, for me, it's just who are cool people that I'd like to work with, you know. Oh, it looked like you froze there for a second.
Interwebs does what it does.
Oh no.
Can you hear me?
I think we're all right. I think I'm all right.
Yeah. So okay, so we started Nerdarchy. Always been a business, love our passion, but part of what we want to do is expand the hobby. We've always wanted to expand the hobby, regardless of everything else. And when I see demographics that aren't represented in the hobby, what I actually see is a huge market of people that, you know, could be brought into the hobby. You know, instead of preaching to the choir, right, more old white dudes, right? We have plenty of those. We totally have representation, and I don't mean it in the sense of representation, but in the sense of just volume of people. Like there's not a lot of black gamers, so that becomes a huge swath of a demographic that you could use to bring, you know, to expand the hobby, or any other demographic for that matter. Which makes sense.
Numbers. Except for the fact that, like, you know, when I have a black cast member on my show, like that doesn't like, I don't market that, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not a thing that I'm just gonna put on the promo, because I don't I don't care about it. Like it's just, you know, it's just one of my friends, you know. That's the way I look at it. But yeah, I mean, like for me it's, you know, we have the time, we have the casting, let's just invite everyone, you know. And like I want to play, I want to play D&D with everyone. I have to find the time to do it. So, you know, I'm working on that.
No, and I totally agree. And it comes back to a little bit of like, if you're doing a new thing, what you kind of touched on is like just inviting people you don't know, and you know, inviting them into your game. And like, you know, this could be for anything really. It just expands the experience at the table when you mix it up and change it up. We talked about GM burnout the other day, and like, one of the things that's helped us greatly is we run like 3 or 4 different groups of different mixes and combinations of people. It just changes it up.
Yeah, burnout is an interesting thing, mostly because I've never experienced it, right? Like I just want to run more stuff. You know, like I I love dungeon mastering. I love the prep. I love all this. Like I need more time so I can run more things. That's all.
But you know what? I would say to that though, like you get a different experience with a lot of your dungeon mastering
Right.
because you're not just running for one group.
Right. And also, and bear in mind, like I don't run every game on the channel. I don't run the game tonight. I'm a player in. That's, you know, we've got a dungeon master there. And then Mouse Guard, I don't dungeon master. Like Four does that. I I don't done like I'd like to DM more, and then we're doing a game and we're starting a new show probably late January, early February, where I'm not the dungeon master. That's just because it's not the DMing part that takes a lot out of me. It's the like the casting and the putting stuff together and like all that other thing. Like I'll I'll dungeon master forever if I don't have to gather the group and sort of do all the busy work, you know, like the work that leads up to the session. Like if you just put people in front of me, I'll DM all day. I don't care.
So how long have you been gaming?
I started my first role playing game was D20 Modern when I was like 14 or 15. I was a camp counselor at a local camp, and my friend introduced me to it. And then I think I might have played a bunch of sessions of third edition that year, maybe 3.5. I don't remember. And then fourth edition came out, and I was in college, and I played about a half a campaign of that in college, and then about the same time, Roll20 had just come out, and so on Roll20 I played a bunch of Pathfinder in fourth edition. So I don't know. I have no idea how many years. Probably seriously gaming for about.
But I'm gonna have to wrap this up.
Yeah.
I know you have things to do too. Unpaid gaming though just made me laugh. How cool is it being a friend with Mike Hunt? I would say having met the guy and hung out with him a couple times, it's so.
Every time Mike, I see Mike, I only imagine that joke from Simpsons. Mike Hunt. I got a call from Mike Hunt here.
Mike.
The answer to that question is it is not cool being a friend of Mike Hunt. Don't do it. You will regret it forever.
For the rest of your life.
It will only scar your reputation.
Just watch from a distance. But hey, I want to ask him, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been great talking to you. We should do this again. I could probably talk forever with you.
Hey, join the club. We have jackets. Always, we talk for hours. It's just there's never enough time.
Absolutely. So guys, until next time, stay nerdy.
Peace.